Good morning, ladies and gentlemen. This is TVP World. You're watching World News. I'm your host, Benjamin Lee, and these are the latest headlines. U.S. President Donald Trump says he plans to speak with Vladimir Putin likely on Tuesday. Speaking abroad Air Force One on Sunday, Trump says his administration is moving closer to peace in Ukraine. He added that land and power plants will be part of the discussions with the Russian leader.
We learned a lot. We're doing pretty well, I think, with Russia. And see if we have something to announce maybe by Tuesday. I'll be speaking to President Putin on Tuesday. And a lot of work's been done over the weekend. We want to see if we can bring that war to an end. Maybe we can, maybe we can't, but I think we have a very good chance.
What sort of concessions will you be seeking to have Putin make to get a deal done?
Well, I think we'll, be talking about land. It's a lot of land. It's a lot different than it was before the war, as you know. And we'll be talking about land. We'll be talking about power plants. That's a big question. But I think we have a lot of it already discussed very much by both sides.
The U.S. Secretary of State described a recent meeting between U.S. envoy to the Middle East, Steve Witkoff, and Vladimir Putin. In a CBS interview, Marco Rubio called the talks promising, but acknowledged the complexities of ending the war in Ukraine. Rubio emphasized that achieving a ceasefire remains the top priority before working towards a lasting resolution. However, he noted that even securing a ceasefire would be difficult, given the shifting battlefield and upcoming interests. He said Plan A is to stop the fighting and bring all sides to the negotiating table. If that fails, he added, the United States would turn to shuttle diplomacy, similar to Henry Kissinger's efforts during the Yom Kippur War in 1973. U.S. National Security Advisor Michael Waltz questioned whether it's realistic to push every Russian off Ukrainian soil, including Crimea. He made the remark during a TV interview on Sunday while discussing potential land concessions by Ukraine.
That we have to ask ourselves, is it in our national interest? Is it realistic? We've talked to the Europeans about this and the Ukrainians. Are we going to drive every Russian off of every inch of Ukrainian soil, including Crimea? And what the strategy of the Biden administration was as long as it takes, as much as it takes, no matter what the timeline is, which is essentially endless warfare in an environment that we're literally losing hundreds of thousands of people in a matter of months and could escalate into World War III. So we can talk about what's right and wrong, and we also have to talk about the reality of the situation on the ground. And that's what we are doing through diplomacy, through shuttle diplomacy, through proximity talks. And it astounds me how that is criticized.
On Sunday, Ukrainian President Volodymyr Zelenskyy has appointed Major-General Andriy Hnatov as the new Chief of General Staff. In his nightly address, Zelenskyy said Hnatov's main task will be improving the combat readiness of Ukrainian troops. The president also said he spoke with Canada's new Prime Minister, Mark Carney, and announced that Kyiv is preparing for the upcoming Ramstein Group Summit in Brussels.
Today, I made personnel changes in the armed forces of Ukraine. Together with the Commander-in-Chief Alexander Syrsky and Minister of Defense Rustem Umerov, we decided that the new Chief of the General Staff will be Andriy Hnatov, a combat guy. His task is to maximize the combat experience of our brigades in planning both defensive and offensive operations, as well as to actively develop the corps system. I just spoke with Canadian Prime Minister Mark Carney. I thanked him for supporting Ukraine, our sovereignty and territorial integrity, for Canada's participation in our joint work with partners in order to protect our people, to bring peace closer and guarantee reliable security. We discussed sanctions against Russia, particularly targeting Russia's tanker fleet, its banks, and its state revenue-generating schemes.
European Union foreign ministers are meeting in Brussels to discuss military aid for Ukraine and European defense. According to EU sources, the bloc's foreign policy chief, Kaja Kallas, is expected to push for a significant increase in military support for Kyiv. Ukrainian Foreign Minister Andriy Hnatov will also brief the ministers on the country's most urgent needs. EU sources says Kallas will urge Foreign Minister to send more artillery ammunition, air defense systems, and missiles to Ukraine. She is leading a new initiative proposing up to 40 billion euros in military aid, exceeding previous EU commitments. The plan is open to contributions from non-EU countries and is designed to bypass potential Hungarian veto through voluntary funding. This meeting comes at a critical time for European defense. On Wednesday, the European Commission will present a white paper on the bloc's defense strategy, followed by discussions at a summit on Thursday. After months of protests, Serbian President Aleksandar Vučić says, "We got the message." Demonstrators are demanding legal and political accountability, blaming Vučić for a tragic accident in Novi Sad last November. 15 people died when a train station canopy collapsed, and protesters say corruption within his government was to blame.
We got the message. Everyone in power needs to understand the message. When so many people are protesting, we are going to have to change and learn from it. On the other hand, I also hope that others have understood the message coming from majority in Serbia, that the citizens of Serbia do not want color revolutions, that the citizens of Serbia do not want violence, and that the citizens of Serbia want to change power through elections.
This whole system is corrupt down to its very core, and this presents a big problem for the general population. This corruption maybe leads to higher prices because of supermarket mafias raising prices to earn more money, all in coalition with the government. So this corruption is really a part of our everyday lives, and this is unmanageable.
We're here to support students, to support justice, and not to provide violence, not to provocate people here. We are just here for the peace, for the love, and that's everything.
There must be some democratic influences in power, not to be in hands of one party and the one man. Democracy, I think, it is what was till now the only way to express different opinions, but to make agreement about the state going ahead. They started to believe that life in Serbia is possible, not to go some other countries when they finish their schools. That's what's happening now. But it won't be easy, I think.
I can say for sure that our fight will definitely continue until we see results and until we see full results.
Beyond the protests in Serbia, anti-government unrest is also growing in Hungary. Tens of thousands of Hungarians gathered in Budapest to protest Prime Minister Viktor Orban's 14-year rule and to support a rising political movement aiming to challenge his economic policies in next year's elections. Pavel Chevskovsky has the details in his next report.
On Sunday, Budapest, the capital of Hungary, has already returned to its usual rhythm after the celebrations of the national holiday that were held here yesterday. The city saw various demonstrations, including one openly anti-government led by the TISA party.
We are the members of TISA Island, and we would like to let Viktor Orban to go. It was enough. It was enough, yes. So that's why we are here.
We want to present the strengths of our engagement, that we want to sign off Mr. Orban.
TISA party was founded a year ago by a former high-profile politician of Fidesz, the Viktor Orban's party, Péter Magyar, and is currently leading some polls ahead of Fidesz, a feat unseen in Hungarian politics since Viktor Orban took power in 2010. And the main reason of TISA's popularity is that it openly opposes the state capture and corruption of Viktor Orban's government.
This is an honest movement. None of us are real politicians. I mean, we are becoming more and more real politicians, but I think people see themselves in us in a way, because we are from the people. We were not planning to become politicians, and that people are very happy that there is something, someone, somebody, and there are a lot of people who are able to voice their anger, their desire for a free, more peaceful reality.
TISA's demonstrations attract tens of thousands, and yesterday's was no different. But the main question is whether this momentum will last long enough to see the 2026 general elections in the country. From Budapest, Hungary, for TVP World, I'm Paweł Trzaskowski.
Tensions between Armenia and Azerbaijan have flared again, just days before a historic peace agreement was said to be signed. On Sunday, Azerbaijan accused Armenia of opening fire on its force, an allegation Armenia quickly denied. The renewed clashes threaten ongoing peace talks as both countries remain locked in a conflict that has lasted more than 40 years. Despite a tentative deal, experts warn that lasting resolution is still uncertain.
Alarming statements from the Azerbaijani Ministry of Defense surfaced on Sunday morning, stating that Armenia had opened fire on its army just days after the announcement of a breakthrough peace agreement. The Armenian Defense Ministry, however, dismissed the allegations.
The statement issued by the Ministry of Defense of Azerbaijan does not correspond to reality.
The reported tensions come just days after both nations were on the verge of signing a breakthrough peace treaty after agreeing on its text.
As the next step, Azerbaijan expects that Armenia will amend its constitution and other legal frameworks to remove any remaining claims against Azerbaijan's territorial integrity and sovereignty. This is a prerequisite for the final signature.
For over 40 years of conflict, both sides have disputed claims over Nagorno-Karabakh, a predominantly ethnic Armenian region, which broke away from Azerbaijan with Armenia's support. After Azerbaijan reclaimed it by force in September 2023, peace talks followed. But experts argue that the ceasefire violations are just one of many flaws threatening the treaty's stability.
What actually would need to happen is that Armenia would need to rewrite its constitution and then have another referendum in which it has to pass, and at least 25% of the population needs to vote in the referendum for it to be considered legally binding. That will take years at the most.
The constitutional change urged by Azerbaijan's government may be the biggest challenge to peace.
Imagine that the referendum is held and the people, the Armenian citizens, voted against the constitutional change and the removal of territorial claims from the constitution. In this case, unfortunately, the Armenia-Azerbaijan peace process will end in a deadlock.
Even if the paperwork seems to be ready, the grounds for peace may still take years to materialize. Reporting for TVP World, I'm Aisha Baja.
And with that, we conclude this edition of World News. But for more news, update, and commentary, please stay tuned to TVP World.